Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut. I hope everyone's having a great week. It's been interesting this time that we're living in, but we do see the light at the end of the tunnel coming up soon. So I hope everyone's staying healthy and safe, and just kind of staying positive, because that's all that we really can do, and hopefully things can get back to normal by the summer. That would be ideal, and we can all just start living our lives again. So again, thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate the constant support of the show and just everybody that tunes in week after week, and it definitely means a lot to me. I am pleased to announce my very special guest for this week, Boston College hockey, Savannah Norcross. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm excited.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm pleased to have you. My mom actually went to Boston College as well, so she's definitely very excited about this episode.
Awesome.
But yeah, how are you doing? How's everything been? I know being a college student during the pandemic is probably tough. So just talk a little bit about kind of how you've been adapting to the pandemic in terms of college and just the challenges that have been presented to you.
Yeah, it's definitely been a super unique year. I mean, to start with our housing situation, you can't gather with like more than 10 people. So, to say the least, I'm not seeing all my other buddies that are on the other sports teams as much as I would like to, but I'm sending them my wishes over text and FaceTime. We get tested 3 times a week at 7 a.m., so that's become a in my routine. I know that I have to get up and make sure I'm getting tested so I'm able to practice, and same thing with, like, COVID checks going into Conti Forum. We have to get our temp scanned, and it's all become sort of in the routine now, but definitely some things I've had to adjust to, like sacrificing my social life in some way to make sure I'm keeping my teammates and my coaches and my staff as safe as possible in our little bubble we are trying to have.
Yeah, it definitely can be tough, I feel like, and just the challenges that have been presented over the past year, and even just, I feel like the unknown that came with sports in general, too, and just not knowing if you were going to even be able to have a real season this year either, I can imagine would have been a worry, but kind of coming into the school year.
Yeah, when we went home around this time, March last year, um, I was home reflecting on just how I wanted to make sure we got a season to get a couple games in. I was like, there's no way we will even be able to return back to school. So even getting the opportunity to come back to BC and continue my studies was super important to me. If that was put on pause, I think I would have been a lot more anxious. So to even have the opportunity to come back to BC and be with my teammates every day, I'm so grateful for. And Hockey East and especially BC has done a great job at pushing to put a good schedule together. We started a little late. We typically start the end of September with a game or two at the end of September, and then play the month of October and get to Thanksgiving break. But this year we kind of started mid-November, so we had like a lot of time to prep and kind of do a boot camp before we had games, which was definitely unusual because you training wise I can't overexert myself. I have to make sure that I am kind of taking it easy and then ramping it up when it is good time because I don't want to burn myself out. So it was definitely a different preseason for sure this year.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And I just thought about everybody that's in college right now during this time, and just all the unknowns that are presented with that. And even the people that graduated last year, that a lot of them didn't really get a full graduation ceremony or any graduation ceremony really. And it's just such a hard time to be in. But I'm glad that a lot of colleges were able to bring back a lot of their sports this year, because it would have just been really unfortunate if this year again, that because a lot of sports didn't end up happening last year. If this year that would have been a repeat of that too. It would have been unfortunate.
Yeah, Boston College has so many amazing sports teams. I mean, I look at the lacrosse team. The lacrosse program here is amazing, and the baseball team. And for their seasons to get cut short, that I have buddies on, my heart kind of broke for them. So to see that they're playing now and they're just starting up their season is sign of relief for me. I'm so happy that they're back and playing some games this year.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good thing, and I think that we can all realize that this is definitely a step in the right direction, and we're all kind of hoping for this light at the end of the tunnel that is actually really coming, and we see it now. So that's a good thing, but it seems like you're adapting pretty well to a lot of the challenges that were presented to you over this past year, and just kind of staying positive, and at least you're still able to play hockey and everything.
Yeah, I honestly think what really helped me with that is lived I've lived away from home my entire life. I went to boarding school in New Hampshire for high school, and you're on the go all the time with hockey. You're doing summer hockey camps and training here and there. And my brother also goes to boarding school too, and he's a couple years younger than me. So for us to kind of all be back together in the same space, was so unusual for me. I haven't lived at home with my family for more than a couple of weeks since I've been 14. So to have 6 months at home with my entire family was just like so good for me, grounded me so much, and they helped me really focus and just realize like what I'm at Boston College for, like to get my studies done and to give everything I have to the women's team here. And that's all I really kind of stayed focused on this summer and stuff with that. So it was kind of nice. They grounded me in that sense. So.
Yeah, I think that's a positive thing that we can take out of this whole situation too, is that people got to spend a lot more quality time with their families that they might not have gotten to spend before too. And I think that that's a really good thing, and a lot of people will attest to that too, that it was just good quality time with loved ones and being able to be close to them, as much as it was, isolating being at home and not being able to go out and do things with friends or anything like that. But for all of us, I think if we had people, our loved ones and everything that we lived with, at least we could say that we stayed close to them and we were able to just get that quality time with them that we might not normally get, like in your situation.
Yeah, I mean, my little brother, someone that I started playing hockey with when I was 6 years old, I got to shoot pucks with him in my driveway, which I probably haven't done since I was 14 years old. And like, it's the little things that look like that kind of made up for this whole crappy situation they're in right now. But so there's some pros and some cons too, definitely. But I definitely tried to look at the whole situation as the glass is half full.
Yeah, which is a great way to look at it. And I think that's the best way we can look at it at this point, because what can we really do? There's nothing we can really do about it. So why not try to find the positives in the situation and just hope for the best, because that's all that anybody can really hope for at this point. So I think that's great that you did that and you tried to make the most of the situation, and it seemed like it paid off, because now everything is starting to improve and you're able to be back at school and playing your sport that you love, and just kind of feeling like you're almost back to regularity in terms of that, but not quite.
Yeah, of course. I mean, to even get in the locker room and sit with my teammates next to them is crazy. I mean, we were doing pods at the beginning of the year, and 12 of us were going in, and then the other 12 were going after, and you weren't sitting next to your stallmates tying your skates, and it was just you can't vibe with your teammates. You can't make that chemistry with the younger girls if that's how we were supposed to do it all year, if that's what happened. But in that case, it's definitely changed, and we were able to come together and have full team practices. So I'm super grateful for that too.
Yeah, that must have been really nice to be reunited with everybody and be like, oh, hey, we're back in person again. This is so nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my next question for you is just when did you discover your love for hockey and when did you realize that that was something that you kind of wanted to pursue seriously?
Yeah, wow. I mean, that goes back like a lot. I've always loved hockey. I grew up playing a lot of different sports. I played softball, um, and my brother played baseball growing up. And it was around middle school when I switched and I started playing girls hockey. I played boys hockey growing up, and I was kind of late to that train of playing girls hockey. It seemed went second year of U12s, and um, a lot of girls start like U8s and U10s, so I was kind of behind on the whole like girls hockey team programs, like being involved with girls. Um, but in middle school, I really wanted to go play better hockey in better leagues. And my dad thought the best thing that I should do was to look at prep schools, and um, I had no problem with wanting to go live 2 hours up north in New Hampton, New Hampshire. And I actually only applied to a couple of schools that have saw me at summer tournaments that had said, "Hey, we'd love for you to come visit and look at the school." So um, I took my chance, and like it only took a couple people to believe in me that made me think that I could actually play at like a higher level in high school. So I went to New Hampton and I loved it. And I grew up also watching the Boston University women's team with Marie Philippe Poulin, Janelle Kawanchuk, superstar Canadian players that have won so many medals. And so, in that sense, I knew that there was definitely, I had to make a plan in that sense if I wanted to get to that level. And I think that prep school was definitely the way my journey, my path took me to get to Boston College. So I was fairly young, and I that's crazy to think it's that you were in middle school thinking about wanting to play college hockey, but it just everything happened for a reason. I was at a specific tournament that for some reason, and someone came up to me. So like, and I talked to my parents. So it's crazy how everything all worked out. But yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I mean, yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you kind of who some of your inspirations were and just people you looked up to growing up, and you did kind of answer that question already. But that's awesome. That's a great story, and just it's awesome that you grew up around the sport and you were like, I want to do that one day, like what these women do, and so how can I get to that point? So it's really cool that you were able to go to that prep school and get really just kind of work your way into the college scene by just working hard in high school and just getting to where you are now. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I was also super competitive as a child. Me and my brother it wouldn't matter if it was like backyard football and my dad would be throwing me and my brother passes like in the backyard. Me, so I knew I was a super like competitive kid when I was young, since I've been younger. So I just knew that there was definitely a way that I could get to the level that those girls were at. But it took some time. Definitely took some thinking and like of going to especially live away at that young of an age. And my mom always kind of says to me like, I missed a part of you growing up, like almost like I didn't drive you to school or pick you up when you were in high school. And but she was like, it was all worth it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you look back at it now and you're like, yeah, it was all worth that experience, I'm sure, because now I am where I am now, and it seems like you love doing it and you love playing at the Division 1 level, and that's just such an accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be more grateful to people that have like honestly taken the chance to like believe in me in that sense too, because you know it only takes a couple of people to say that you can do this. And that obviously stemmed first with my family, my mom and dad being like, you can go live away, Savannah, and things will come. Opportunities and doors will open for you. You just gotta put yourself out there, dip your toes in the water a little. And it was scary for me. I would get super homesick. I mean, I was 14 years old. And same thing with my high school coach. I mean, I went to a tournament in around December, or like the Christmas Cup tournament at the school my brother actually attends, and there was a girls' tournament there. And he came up to me after the tournament and was basically like, "You're gonna visit BU and BC back-to-back days because I know you want to go to school in Boston." And I did want to go to school in Boston. I wanted to, if I was going to go to the next level, I definitely would want my parents to be able to come watch more often. I mean, they couldn't come to my 3 o'clock games on a Friday afternoon. It was impossible for them to sometimes leave work. And so I thought I like sort of owed it to them to like come back to Boston, but of course I wanted to be in the city. So, because I'm from Lynn, Massachusetts, I'm from like 30 minutes away from here. So,
Okay, yeah.
I'm a local kid, a North Shore girl. So, I visited BC on a Tuesday and BU on a Wednesday, and you would have thought, and I put money on that I would have loved BU more, but something about BC just really resonated with me and felt so good in my heart. So my dad also went here too, and he would very much so not like taking me to BU women's hockey games because of the rivalry and stuff. But my parents would have been like 100% you were going. We would have thought you went to BU, and I don't know. It was just a feel I got when I stepped on campus and stuff. So.
Yeah, I've heard that happens with a lot of people too. And I mean, even where I went, when I toured the school, I felt something really good about that school that I was like, yeah, I feel like I need to go here. So I heard that happens with a lot of people. And especially for you, there was more to consider at the school than just, the campus and the academics, because you're going to play a sport too. And that's a huge commitment. So you have to look at it for other factors as well, besides what a lot of other people would be looking at the school for.
Yeah, I mean, I look, the academics here are amazing, so you can't go wrong with either of those two schools. But the coaches were super interested in me, and what I really liked is that they were females too. So, in that sense, growing the game that way, I really thought was super cool. So I took my chance with them, and I'm so glad that I did. I couldn't say any better words about Boston College.
Yeah, it seems like you're in a great place for you, and I'm really happy that you ended up there and your family is able to come to games now that you're close to them and everything else, and that the games are at better times that they can make too.
Well, they're closer now. Yeah. If the game is at 2 o'clock, they can kind of shimmy out of work and miss the traffic and get in and watch. But now because of COVID, actually, we can't have fans and stuff. But BC's done a super good job of putting all of our games on NESN and stuff. So it actually has been better because then my like extended family members and friends are now putting on the games and watching. So it's almost like there's a good and bad thing. Like now my mom and dad can't come physically to my games, but a lot more people are watching. I'm getting a lot more texts being like, "Oh, I just watched your game. You just beat this person, well, this team, like good job." Like, so in a sense, I mean, it's been way better having our games broadcasted on NESN.
Yeah, in terms of the exposure and everything else, and just because the amount of people that watch NESN, because of the professional teams that they broadcast and stuff too. So there's a lot of people that pay attention to that network. So probably in a way it's a good thing, but it also probably is unfortunate to not be able to have your families coming and rooting you guys on at games, or just have people there in general. But I know that Massachusetts changed they kind of lifted some of their restrictions in terms of allowing people at sporting events now, starting now. So I don't know if that will affect you guys at all or not. I'm not sure if you've heard anything about that, but I know that the Massachusetts governor just now said that at limited capacity they'll allow people at games.
Yeah, we just played, and sadly we're knocked out of our league's title. So we won't be competing for our Hockey East Championship this year, but the selection show is this Sunday. And with the resume that we've put together all year, I mean, we've only had 4 regular season losses, and I think with the circumstances that we've gone through this year and just the high quality schedule we've had, we should have at least a chance to have a bid go 7th or 8th seed into the national tournament, and we'll find that out on this coming Sunday. So, I mean, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that what we did this entire season will pay off and not just our last game will determine our season.
That's so exciting, though. If you guys can do that, that would be really cool.
I know. I've only been to the national tournament once, and that was my freshman year, and we got knocked out the first round to Clarkson. So I would really love the opportunity to be in the tournament as an upperclassman and kind of know what I'm going into and what level of compete I need to have.
Yeah. And so do you feel like the team this year, just in terms of just all of with the unprecedented time that we were in and just all the adjustments that had to be made, would you say overall you're happy with the season that you guys put together and like considering all of that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we would have so much anxiety and be so anxious going to get tested every day. We wouldn't go out to dinner with each other if you were a freshman and a senior type of stuff. It was hard to kind of create that cohesiveness at first, but I really am so happy for everyone and how everyone's adjusted, even if it's just like sacrificing like the little things of like not going to see your friends on a Saturday night after a game. I mean, that's so hard, especially as a college student. Like, all you want to do is socialize and meet people. I give props to our freshmen who really don't know anyone else except for our teammates this year. And like, that must be really hard as a freshman coming into college, really only knowing your teammates and then having to go into next year kind of almost being a freshman socially again. So I give them props. I give our captains props. They've done such a good job at keeping the team together and on the same page. I mean, there would be times where we did pop a positive during season, but that wouldn't like change us as a team and what we were working for. And I'm actually impressed with the way that we all handled it this year.
Yeah, and that's impressive, because it's just such a different time now, and I think that was going to propose a big challenge to a lot of sports teams, just with the unknowns and with the testing every day, like you said, and just a lot of question marks surrounding the season and adjusting to not being able to have anybody watching games, and it definitely probably is not easy. So I commend all of you for being able to adjust to that so well and just being able to keep playing your game that you guys know and just kind of putting all of that aside.
Yeah, I mean, we have these trackers that we put in our hockey pants to count how much time we are within 6 feet of each other. I mean, that is crazy to me to be, if someone were to test positive and you were on ice or in the weight room within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes of them, you would be contact traced and you'd have to go quarantine for how many amount of negative tests you would need to get back. Or it's just crazy how like every day you're not walking on eggshells, but you're just like, you don't know what's to come next. So we did a really good job at focusing on what was in front of us, what games are in front of us. And I think that our record definitely shows that we were focused all year.
Yeah, and it's pretty impressive, to be honest. And I hope that this weekend and everything, things go your way in terms of those results when they come out with the selection show and everything else. So I'm sure all eyes will be on you guys. So that'll be really. I'm sure that'll be really cool to witness too.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we get a bid. I mean, we've worked so hard for everything this year. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah, what do you find to kind of be the biggest challenge between balancing your academics and being a Division I athlete?
I would just say time management is like what I feel like a lot of people would say, but for me, time management is key. Making sure you get a good schedule. I've realized since and based off your practice time, I mean, we practice and lift in the middle of the day. Um, and like in the beginning of the season, we lifted early in the morning. So I was making sure that I got enough sleep so I could work out at 7 a.m. and be fully present during my 9 a.m. class. And then get to the rink right after that to make sure I'm stretched and ready to go for 12:30 practice. And now second semester it's switched to our lift changed to 11. So I've realized that I really can't take night classes now because I'm exhausted after practice and I'm so hungry. I'm like I can't run to a 3 o'clock class when I'm not if I hadn't eaten anything. So definitely time management and making sure my schedule, my sleep schedule and class schedule is better in the morning. All my classes are in the morning. So yeah.
Yeah. I've always been impressed by that, though. I mean, even just when I've watched college sports on TV, I'm like, wow. I mean, I don't know how these kids just balance being a Division I athlete with just their academics and everything. Because for me, I mean, in college, I didn't play a sport, but my academics were just took up so much time for me anyway. And then I had other extracurricular activities. But I was like, I cannot imagine being an athlete that is spending all of this time with their sport but also has all of the schoolwork on top of it. So I've always found that to just be super fascinating.
It's honestly like kind of good for me in a way though that I have these time slots that I can do work because I feel like I would procrastinate a lot of things and do things a lot last minute if I didn't have that like short time to do things or in that sense. So I just know that I have to get my work done in the morning or I have to get it done right after practice. I can't wait till like 6, 7 o'clock at night because I'm just so exhausted from like the entire day. But there definitely are those nights where I am up grinding on work for a long time. But I don't like to sacrifice my sleep just because of the way I exert my body and every day, especially. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense too. And college is tough in itself. So the fact that you're balancing all of that stuff is pretty impressive for sure.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, same with like nutrition and stuff too. I've learned like what I can and cannot eat on like days before a game prior and stuff like that. I know that I can't be having some fast food or anything, as much as I love like some fries and stuff like that. I just can't like there's
Yeah.
definitely I've learned with that your food is like medicine too and it helps your body recover and everything that you do every day like adds up to those like big moments and it's so like cliche and cheesy to say but it's true and I've had to learn that though like over the past 3 years that like everything you do matters every day so
Yeah, and that's got to be intense because it's probably just a strict, diet and just sleep schedule and just making sure you're staying healthy for hockey and just also staying on top of the schoolwork and everything else, and also obviously being able to hang out with your friends and do stuff like that and just have some fun too. So on all of that together can't be easy, but I definitely applaud you guys for being able to do it.
Yeah, no, you gotta honestly just love what you're doing. If you love what you're doing, it's easy. It's so easy for me to sacrifice not hanging out with my other friends, my other sports team friends, to get my homework done on time because I know that I have to be ready for practice or I know that I have to be ready for our big game this coming weekend. It's easy for me when because I love it here so much. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome that you love the school and you just love your team and you love just being a part of it, because that's a huge part of the college experience. I mean, if you don't like where you are, then it's going to be a long 4 years at a school.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, no, yeah. So it's definitely a good situation that it sounds like you're in, and I hope that things can kind of start to normalize themselves, and as time goes on, and the rest of the school year even, because things are already starting to get better now. So hopefully, kind of, there's only a couple months left of this school year, unfortunately, but hopefully things by the summer will be better.
I know I turned 21 in June, so I'm hoping that things are open and that I can even just go like sit and have a normal dinner with my family and friends. That's what I'm just hoping for, that I'll be able to do by the end of around June time, so by the end of the school year. So
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
yeah.
And do you have another year left of school after this?
Yes, I am going to be. It's crazy. It goes by so quick. I am going to be a senior next year.
It does fly by.
Yeah, I cannot believe that, but
Yeah, everybody told me that when I went into college, that the 4 years is going to fly by, and I didn't believe anybody until I was about like halfway through. And at the end of my sophomore year, when I realized that the amount of time I had left was the amount of time that had passed, I was like, wow, that is not a lot of time at all anymore.
yeah, especially with last year getting sent home a little bit earlier than what you would expect too. I mean, you're thinking the season's finally over. You can you'll have a little more time to get your work done, have a little bit more time to hang out with friends and stuff, and you're sent home, so you miss your sophomore spring, and now you're a junior and you have such strict guidelines with COVID and everything, and it's just crazy how quick the year's gone by. But like you said, everything seems to be going upwards.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And I do have a lot of hockey fans that listen to the show and just are definitely really appreciative of your time. And I don't know how many games or if any games you've really had a chance to watch with the Bruins this season, but they're playing really well too, and they're definitely representing the city of Boston pretty well, because they're kind of looking like the best team in hockey right now. And that's really exciting too, because it seems like we have a lot of teams between our college teams and our professional teams that are representing the city of Boston really well. And the thing for them that I notice when they play, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, being a hockey player yourself, is just the intensity that they bring to all their games and just the fight that they put into it. And they could be down in games and then you never count them out, because they'll come back and they'll win games where they're down like 3 or 4-0 and they're in serious holes, and they'll come back in the last couple periods and they'll win games. And it just seems like they never give up, and they always have this sort of intensity that they bring to their games. And that might be something that just makes them stand out and makes them unique relative to other teams. But as a hockey player yourself, do you feel like the intensity and fire that they bring to games to kind of get the job done is something that you find is common in teams, or is that something that you think is probably just unique to them in terms of the environment on the team and just that locker room mentality that they have?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely think that there are some type of people that are born with that like natural competitive that's in their stomach, that fire in their belly. So I'll give some certain players that, but I definitely do think that culture within a team is everything. The way the starting goalie acts from the person that's getting scratched that night acts is you're just as strong as your weakest link. So I think that they definitely have something special going on in their locker room. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm a Pittsburgh fan. So I know, crazy. I grew up watching Crosby and Malkin and Fleury actually, when they were like playing for the Cup in like '09 and when they were playing against Detroit and stuff like that. So
special team.
yeah, so like those are the guys that I looked up to, and honestly, the Bruins have they love their local kids too. So I kind of like that too because it actually brings some something more than just like hockey to the table too. Like you have someone like I actually met him a couple summers ago at a Luke Bryan concert. Charlie Coyle, who's from like who's from like South Shore. I'm pretty sure like Weymouth, and like it brings something different to the table. Like they're from Boston, like they're doing it from where he's doing it from where he grew up from. So it's like it doesn't get any better than that. And you do have your unbelievable like Patrice Bergeron and Marchand and Pasternak that like do damage offensively too. Like those three, you can't say anything negative about those guys. I mean, they just work so hard, and I think that probably attributes to their team culture and the way that they have that sort of fight is like working so hard. You can just tell when you know people work hard like day in day out. I don't know if it's because I'm in I am an athlete and I can just see it in someone. It's kind of different. I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly, but like you see it in like a Brad Marchand, like that you know he's gonna score or something just because of like how hard he's working and stuff like that. And they also have like what I mean by local, like kids like Charlie McAvoy and Matt Gresslick who went to Boston University that know the streets, like went to college around here for a couple of years. So it's kind of cool that they have that within their culture too. So I think that a combination of all those factors definitely is why they're so good and so talented. I do have to say though that I don't really necessarily agree with their trade, like trading Chara and stuff. That kind of was like a little sad for me, even though I'm not a super it's Pittsburgh and then the Bruins for me, but even though that I don't follow the Bruins as much as I do Pittsburgh, the Chara trade seemed I don't know, kind of unfair to me. I mean, I think that he wasn't really looking for that much money. I think he wanted to stay here, but I think the organization wanted to have more of a younger face, bring more younger kids in. So that's kind of sad, but it's how it works. But he's still doing super well. I'm pretty sure the Bruins just lost to the Capitals 2-1. So I bet it's kind of hard. I bet it's super hard for the Bruins to play against someone that's such a threat like that, and that was such a huge leader and had such a big role in their team. So you can expect them to maybe drop a game like that. But all in all, I think that they're doing really well this year.
Yeah, it's hard to watch as a fan, that's for sure. Like I'll watch these games when they do play the Capitals, and like they played in a game previously against the Caps. He scored a goal against the Bruins, and that just hurt me personally. So I was like, this is so painful to watch. But yeah, I think a lot of people were upset about that trade. I think he would have stayed here at the end of the day, even if they weren't going to offer him as much money. And he kind of indicated that he would have stayed for less money, I think, too. And it's because, he loved being here, and it was just sad to see him go. And he's just one of those players that you look at like, like, what is this defense going to be without him? But I do have to say the young players have stepped up really, because on defense, that was what we really thought the question mark was going to be at the beginning of the season, was the defense. And then a lot of the young players have stepped up, and at the beginning of the season it was kind of the opposite, and they couldn't score, and it was really weird. In just regular 5-on-5 shooting, they couldn't score. They were relying on power plays, and now they're not as good in the power plays anymore, but they're racking up goals against good teams, and so that's promising too. And so, they go and they go to Lake Tahoe and they crush the Flyers. And so they have games like that. And so I think there's optimism in that the young players are really learning to adapt to just kind of the whole team and the mechanism and the coaching style, and just being here. And I think that that's promising for them, because it was a worry at the beginning of the season, I think, how the young players were going to adapt with the veteran guys. And with the veteran guys, some of the players you mentioned, Marchand, Pasternak, those types of players, their window is closing for a championship at this point too. So it's kind of, the Bruins are at the point now where if they don't win in the next couple of years, they might just find themselves in complete rebuild mode, and they might start to lose some of these veteran players that probably won't be in the league that much longer because their window is closing. So I think that was a concern, but they do just have something, I think something special, and people have said this, a lot of the analysts have said this too, that they just have something special going on in their locker room where they come into every game and they don't count themselves out until the very end, and until the clock strikes zero, and they come into games with every game with a sense of urgency and saying, we want to come out and win this game. And granted, there's still a lot of season left, so it's going to be interesting to see if the young players can maintain what they're doing, down the stretch when it's getting into crunch time and heading towards the playoffs. I think that's going to be a big thing for them, but it's just the fact that they're the division they're in is not an easy division. There's good teams in that division, and you can attest to this too. And the fact that they're beating some of these good teams, I think, is really promising for just how the rest of the season for them is going to go, just with the amount of expectations they're exceeding this year, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a top to bottom thing, though. It starts with the coaches too, and then it goes to your leaders, and then everyone else follows. So, I mean, that's you can have a team full of really good players and not do well at all. So I think that the coaching staff definitely deserves some credit on that aspect for keeping them in that path and setting them up to do well. So
yeah, that's a really good point as well, as nobody really seems to mention the coaching either, that it's people mention like so and so is performing well, or Pasta came back from injury and now he's playing well, and people forget about the coaching sometimes. And the coaching, I feel like, is just a very important aspect to the game. I mean, it obviously is in any sport, but just the way that the coaching is in hockey, I feel like, is just so key to your team's success. And if you don't have a coach that can really rally the team and get the job done, then you're probably going to struggle relative to other teams who do have the coaching to go further.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how they do in postseason. I definitely do agree with what you just said, to see what they do postseason, because you can have a good regular season with like individual talent. I think that's one thing that individual talent can carry through some like games that don't matter. So, but they do matter. I didn't mean it like that, but like,
no, I know.
The important games when it actually does matter. So, I mean, in saying about the younger players too coming in, you do need I like how they're bringing in younger players, but you definitely do need those vets to show them the way too, like the David Krejcis, to show them how it goes. How you can't have a team full of young players and expect anything to get done, but those older guys will definitely help with the coaching staff, develop those young players too. So I think that the younger kids that have been coming in are only getting better and better and doing so well just because of those two combinations, the coaches and the vets too. So
yeah, they have like that leadership, that people that have been on the team for a while that can kind of help guide them and grow them later on, which I think is good for them down the road, because when these veteran players are done and can't really play anymore, you have this new group of guys that can kind of take over and hopefully fill those shoes, and that it would kind of make for a smoother transition and rebuild as they kind of go along, because I don't know how much longer we're going to have players like Marchand or David Krejci or players like that are just kind of maybe hitting the end of their careers, relatively soon. So I think that they all have the mindset now that they do kind of have to win a championship soon, probably this year, next year, maybe even the year after. That might be even pushing it, if the veteran players want to win a championship before their careers are over.
Yeah, I mean, with saying that too, it all kind of depends if your goalies are playing hot too. I mean, you can have a really good goalie and them just have a really tough game. So all the best to Tuukka and the rest of the Bruins goalies, to be ready to go when time comes, so that they're feeling hot when playoffs start too.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I'm sure that that's another thing that you can attest to also, is I feel like it's, especially with the longevity of their season and everything, it could be hard to maintain the momentum that you have early on throughout the rest of the season. And I feel like hockey is just one of those sports where you could get hot at the right time and your team could get hot and bring all that momentum in. And then when the playoffs hit, if you're that team, even if you weren't the best team all season, you could be the team that kind of goes all the way and makes it to the Stanley Cup, even if you weren't the team that was at the top of the league all year. So I think that is another thing to consider also, that, I mean, yeah, they're playing really, really well right now and they're dominating their division and they're really good. But is that something that they can maintain the whole season? Because that could be a challenge, I feel like, with just how many games that are played and just how long the season is.
Yeah, I mean, I think of like a couple years prior, the St. Louis Blues, like, were barely making playoffs type of thing, and they ended up winning the cup. So I mean, like, playoffs, anything can happen. So that's what's so great about this sport, and that's why I love it so much. Is you just never know. So, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's super exciting. And that's why there's nothing really, I feel like watching hockey playoffs, because they're so intense and you just never really know what's going to happen. And any team could come out on any given night and win a game, no matter if they're the favorite or not, or just no matter what the circumstances are, the situation is. Anybody can just come out on any given night and win. And the great thing about hockey is that, it's not like it's a one game elimination per series. Like you have time to play these teams, and if you come out in the first game and you're not playing that well, then at least there's other games in that series still that you can kind of make up for that. But there's just nothing like the intensity that's brought to it. And I think, by the time the playoffs come around and hopefully with fans being there and stuff, it's just, there's so much to be said, I feel like, also about having fans there. And just last year with the bubble, it probably just wasn't the same kind of environment for the players, not having the fans in that aspect, because fans are a really important part in sporting events and they bring a lot of energy that the players feed off of, essentially. So I feel like just being in the bubble and not having the fans is just makes a big difference in performance a lot of times, just because the crowd and just having that environment and having all of your fans there that are supporting you and cheering makes a difference in the way that the team performs.
Yeah, it's energy, really, that is just like within the crowd and the fans. I mean, I think about our men's team too here at BC. Like, the games were crazy packed. I mean, I know it's not an NHL game, but they would we'd be tight in the rafters next to each other watching the game. So, I mean, I was thinking of them a lot this year when it came to having fans because in my opinion, I think they kind of got a national championship definitely taken away from them last year. I think they would have had a good run to win one of those. So hopefully this year they can get one. So I just thought that with the year that our men's team had last year, that not having the electric fans that they typically have is definitely different for them, but they've done a great job at changing and adapting to that. I mean, I bet now with the bubble, the NHL players have done a better job. Even World Juniors, watching that. I mean, World Juniors, the best part is the fans, the crowd. I mean, going crazy for your country and stuff. So, I mean, I bet it's been difficult for them in some ways, but not affecting them too much. I would hope so.
Yeah, that's good. And I did feel my heart kind of broke for them last year too, because I was like, it's just so disappointing to see just things like this and just how this pandemic is really just affecting all of us and athletes like that. And just they were on such a good run, and it just it's unfortunate to see those kinds of things happen and just think back to what 2020 really did.
Yeah, I mean, you could see like talking about getting a team getting hot, like you could see the men's team here getting hot, like they were gonna go steamroll teams in the NCAA tournament. So all I hope is that the same thing happens for the Bruins and possibly Pittsburgh, and we can even get in. I think that they're a little bit outside on the bottom half of the division right now, but I know that they play the Flyers tonight, and Flyers have a couple of standouts and actually a BC alum, Kevin Hayes. So he's fun to watch always. He's a vet, so it'll be fun to watch that game tonight. But yeah, I definitely hope that the Bruins definitely keep what they have together going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, at least the Bruins are your secondary team, so you're not just like an anti-Bruins.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not an anti-Bruins fan for sure. Like, they have like what the style of hockey that like I love, the grit, the hardworking. There's some skilled players, but like it's definitely more coming from the heart for them, for their group. So, and that's a lot of times like underappreciated. So.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that that's something that isn't talked about a lot, and just the way that they go into the games with a sense of passion and just urgency and heart, like you said, that I don't find with a lot of teams. I think it's unique, and I think it's something that could get them really, really far. And I think that they have the desire and just that special passion to want to go all the way this year. And I think that that's really special. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that all plays out down the stretch. And just I'm hoping everybody stays healthy, because obviously health is one of the biggest things in a sport like that. So the key is going to be everybody staying healthy. Obviously not just for them, but for every team.
Yeah, just doing what you got to do, like day in, day out. Like it's the same sort of thing applies. Just sacrifice, like not sacrificing, making the right choices when it comes to do I go see this? Do I go see my friend that I haven't seen in so long, with the possibility of them being out because of a COVID protocol type of thing? So it's not even just like physical injuries. It's the COVID protocol you have to worry about this season too. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, there's that extra factor now that we've never had to think about in the past, but now we do. So that just makes everything harder from all levels, professional down to everybody, that it's like, yeah, you could get injured, and that's just something that's always a risk. But now between last year and this year, now there's, the COVID situation that is just its own factor in itself. So any team at any time could have players affected by that too. So that's also another thing to keep in mind. So that's a really good point.
That's something super uncontrollable too. So they might as well just control what they can control. If they want to go on a good run and possibly win a cup this year.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's all they really can do, and I guess we'll see if they can do that, and if they can maintain that energy and just that fire and that passion. And me as a fan, I hope so, but I guess we'll just one can only hope. I mean, they've gotten so far in years past, and they just can't get the job done. And that St. Louis Blues loss, that still hurts me as a fan. So we'll see what happens. But I look forward to the rest of the season. And I also really thank you for joining the show and coming on and taking the time out of your really busy schedule to be on the show. I know that people really appreciate it. So we all wish you the best of luck with the rest of your school year and this and just with that selection show, and just hoping that your team can see some success. So I'll be thinking of you and wishing you the best of luck. And everybody, you guys know where to find Boston Bowling. This episode on all podcast streaming platforms and all social media platforms. So I will talk to you all next time, and hope you all have a good rest of your day. Have a good one. Thanks for tuning in again, as always.